Some infographics get clicks, some get cringes. What makes the difference? The answer isn't just a pretty design. It's an intentional approach that starts way before you start picking out a color palette or illustration style. I'm Ashton, Director of Design and Operations at Lemon.ly, home of the world's best infographics. Today, we're talking about how to make infographics that actually work. We'll dig into the whole process: planning, writing, wireframing, and designing infographics that stick with your audience and work toward your goals. Every infographic starts with content. To talk through planning and writing, here's Maddie.
Let's talk about what makes great infographic content and some best practices for writing outstanding infographics. Before you can start writing, you have to strategize. There are lots of kinds of infographics: problem, solution, outcome, comparison, timeline, you get the idea. And it can be tempting to start with one specific kind of infographic in mind. But before you can decide which type of infographic you're making, you have to figure out why you're making an infographic to begin with. Start by assembling your ingredients. At least that's what we call them at Lemon.ly. Your goal, audience, main idea, and research. The bones of your purposeful, polished infographic. Your goal and audience should help you determine the story you should be telling and the type of research or data you need to wrangle up. Starting with goals. Write your infographic for a reason. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you clearing up a misconception, driving traffic to a web page, rallying an audience to your cause, teaching teens how to do laundry without shrinking all their sweaters? Whatever you're trying to do, make sure you could define it. Write your infographic for someone, like the aforementioned laundry doing teens. Remember the cardinal rule of content. If your audience is everyone, your audience is no one. It's almost impossible to decide the right depth and breadth of information to include without knowing who is reading that information. When defining your audience, include both relevant demographics and their familiarity level with the content. Marketing agency decision makers who are looking for a new project management solution. Parents who want a clear reference for infant milestones. Teens who have never done their own laundry. You have a clear goal. You have a defined audience. Coming up with your main idea or thesis statement from there should be pretty easy. The trick is making sure your topic is narrow and focused enough. If your topic is too broad, your audience is overwhelmed and unsure about what they should take away from the infographic. What's the point? Or you end up trying to cover too much at once, the infographic gets too long, and you start losing people. I don't know if you've heard, but attention spans are getting shorter. So let's keep that topic focused. Define your main idea succinctly. What's the one-sentence summary your audience should take away from your infographic? I like to write them from the audience's perspective. For example, this product would help solve 3 of my team's biggest pain points. Or, I understand the differences between the 3 tiers of service this company offers. Or, I have the information I need to properly sort my recycling going forward. Here's a best practice. Beware of a takeaway statement or main idea that includes the word "and." So, I understand the importance of this cause and know how to get involved is fine. You have a main idea and a call to action. That's still a nice, narrow topic. But I know the company history and understand how this product works is iffy. Does it really make sense to include both of those things in one graphic? Which is more important for the audience to know? Does the company history have anything to do with how the product works? Probably not. Pick a lane. Keep things purposeful. Let's talk research. At this point in the process, you know what your overall goal is, who you're talking to, and what you want them to take away from the infographic. Now you gotta back it up with evidence and information. Start rounding up the resources you need to fill in supporting points for that main idea. Some of it might already live in your brain or in existing content or materials you've already created. If you're working with a team or tackling a more technical subject, you might need to talk to a subject matter expert or two. If you're using outside sources, make sure to cite them in your final graphic. Found some raw data? Find some analysts to help you tease out the insights. You have your main idea. You have your data. Use those 2 things to figure out key supporting points or main sections of your infographic. Let's take it back to essay outlining in school. Each of your supporting points should ladder up to your main idea and have proof to back it up. Aim for 2 to 4 main sections of your infographic content. Under those, fill in your data points, qualitative, quantitative, or a mix of the 2. Once you have that outline, you're pretty close to having a full copy draft for your infographic. The most important thing to remember at this point is that your words won't stand alone, no matter how beautifully they're structured. That's the whole point. Visuals give us the chance to live out that great writing mantra, show, don't tell. Infographics are unique from other marketing content or design pieces because the visuals carry so much of the meaning. They're not just there to decorate the text. When we have the opportunity to use an illustration, diagram, or chart to explain information, we use it. Those elements require visual space and copy formatted with flexibility. How do you provide that flexibility? By sticking to the copywriter's 3 C's: clear, concise, and compelling. Clear means the audience gets it. The copy and visuals work together to explain the information and help the story stick. Concise equals focused and purposeful. The words are carefully selected and easy to digest. And compelling. The story is presented in a way that makes it matter to the audience. It has flair and a point of view. As you beef up your outline into a full draft, be careful with your beefing. If you feel yourself starting to write paragraphs, pause and make sure that's the most clear, concise, and compelling way to represent the information. Organize the content with headings, a clear hierarchy of information. Bullet points. I mention bullet points a lot, they're my favorite. Concise copy where every word is chosen intentionally. Tables to organize data for data visualization. A clear call to action that directs the audience to more information or the next step on their content journey. That's how you get solid, complete infographic copy. Let's recap the best practices for planning and writing phases before we hand it back over to Ashton. Plan your content around your audience and goals. Keep your topic specific and write with visuals in mind. Great infographic content is clear, concise, and compelling. Next, we'll dig into the wireframe, moodboard, and design. Ashton, back to you.
Thanks, Maddie. So your copy is all written and beautifully formatted. Let's talk about some best practices at each stage of the infographic design process. Overall, it's important to remember that visual elements in an infographic aren't just decorative. They help communicate your meaning. The design should be clear, beautiful, and accessible. It helps the reader process the information. It's delightful to look at. And it follows accessibility best practices so it can be enjoyed by as many people as possible. There are 2 important stages of infographic design the Lemonly way. The first is the wireframe and moodboard phase. The second is design. Let's start with the wireframe. What is it? It's a grayscale blueprint of your infographic showing the text, layout, and notes with planned visual elements. Think placeholder shapes or images with notes like icon of a piggy bank or spot illustration of mountains. What's the point of that? It's all about planning. Wireframing allows you to focus on the hierarchy, layout, and spacing instead of doing everything at once. You can make edits to a grayscale wireframe much more easily than to a fully designed infographic. Trust me on this one. How do you start a wireframe? First, you gotta read. When reading the content, figure out what the most important points are. They're probably formatted as headings. Take a look at the overall copy length. How many sections are there? Are they equally important or detailed, or is one the star of the show? Do different sections have similar structure? If so, that could be a hint to use similar layouts in the wireframe. Are there any big pieces of complex data that need some extra consideration or physical space on the page? These questions will help you plan out your layout. Then, you can start thinking about your intended visuals. Where can visuals add understanding, structure, delight, or a visual break for your reader? Can you replace some text with a thoughtfully designed visual element? Where should you start placing supporting graphics, data, visualizations? Some choices might take some more thought, but some might be pretty obvious once you get some experience. For example, bulleted points in infographic copy are a great place to bring in corresponding icons or small illustrations. A key stat can be a great spot for a large number callout or a mini chart. Larger blocks of copy should usually be paired with a spot illustration or some other dynamic visual treatment to add some interest. It's always fun and challenging to play with tables, charts, and other data visualizations, finding ways to make them both easy to understand and fun to explore. No matter what visuals you're planning out, function should always be at the forefront, and the wireframe stage is a great opportunity to plan that out. No color, no frills, just purpose and layout. When reviewing your wireframe to decide if it's working, the layout needs to flow. Each block should lead seamlessly into the next and give an overall sense of cohesion. The text and visuals should each have plenty of space to shine, and the audience should know where to look next. Make sure it's not too cluttered and each visual element serves a clear and specific purpose. Okay, let's recap. A good wireframe helps you visualize the layout, get an idea of the flow, and plan for visual elements in your infographic. The next step is defining the visual style with a mood board. A mood board is the summary of key elements like colors, fonts, icons, and illustration style. All that good stuff. It sets the overall creative direction for the infographic, the look and feel the final piece will have. If you're making a branded infographic, most of these visual elements are probably part of an existing brand guide already. When I'm putting together a mood board from scratch, there are a few places I look for inspiration. Pause here for the list and we'll put links in the description too. Whether you're drawing from established brand elements or introducing new ones, creating a mood board is all about high-level creative decision-making. It's a chance to step away from the details and think bigger picture about how the design will convey the right tone or match the brand. So we have our wireframe and we have our mood board. Now it's time to bring it all together in design. At Lemonly, we sometimes describe the design phase of the process as painting the mood board onto the wireframe. Add color, fill in illustrations, and other visual elements. Maybe make some tweaks to spacing or sizing as needed. Different types of infographics might require different design approaches. A heavily data-driven infographic will be designed differently than a more narrative infographic. The intentional choices you've made in creating the wireframe and mood board will help make sure it all comes together neatly in the full design. There aren't many surprises in the design phase, but accessibility becomes extra important. You want to be sure your color contrast and text size meet web content accessibility guidelines, and ensure any characters you've designed represent an inclusive range of identities. And there you have it, a clear, concise, compelling, and effective infographic.
The difference between infographics that work and those that don't isn't just great illustration or clever headlines. It's a thoughtful process from beginning to end. When you start with strategy and focus on being clear, concise, and compelling through copy and design, you create infographics that look great and you communicate effectively with your audience. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
If you love sweet visuals, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and follow Lemonly on the social media channels of your choice.